Hello, and welcome to the SharePoint Framework and JavaScript Special Interest Group Bi-Weekly Sync. It is a special Ignite edition. It is September 27th, 2018, and we've got a great meeting here, including some updates from live from Ignite. But first, we always like to go over, for folks that might be new to this call or listening to the recordings for the first time, why we have these SIGs and what they're all about. These special interest groups give us a platform to really dive deep into specific topic areas. This one is about client-side development, so everything around SharePoint Framework and the associated development patterns there, the PnP JS libraries, as well as the Office 365 CLI and SPFx reusable controls. So all of those are client-side related technologies. And then we have a second SIG, special interest group, around the PowerShell and CSOM development that we will that is on alternating weeks. So that would be next Thursday. We'd have that SIG. So welcome you, of course, to join either or both of the SIGs. Love to have you on the calls and let you tailor it a little bit to the kind of content you're most interested in. Two links down there at the bottom, aka.ms/SPPnP-community, takes you to the Microsoft Tech community, specifically the SharePoint area of the Microsoft Tech community. That is a great location to ask your general kind of questions that aren't really about a specific library or a specific technology, that are more like, how would I architect my solution, or how might I go about debugging a certain problem, stuff like that. Great forum, great participation there, so do check that out if you have those general kind of questions. And if you have very specific SharePoint development questions, the second link there, aka ms/spdev-docs, will take you to all of the SharePoint developer documentation. So whether you're new to and getting started with SharePoint Framework, or working with add-ins, or even the CSOM model, so on-premises, the WSP package model, all of that documentation is now located at that link, and we're constantly working to make that better. And of course, you can always give us feedback if you find issues with articles or content missing. Please do let us know, and we'll do our best to get that updated. So today, our agenda is we've got an engineering update on SharePoint Framework, quick updates on the PnP JS, the Office 365 CLI, and the reusable controls. And then as well, we've got some great demos. The first from Frank. He's got a bot with SPFx and modern sites, very cool demo. And then we've got special guests here today. We've got Luca Bandinelli, Pat Miller, and then, well, Vesa is not a special guest. He's here every week. But we're going to get some great updates on SPFx 1.7, what's coming with that, straight from the floor on Ignite. So very excited to see that stuff. If you haven't gotten to watch the sessions online, this will be a nice sort of quick overview, not as in-depth as the sessions, and then the session recordings will be coming available in the coming, I'm not sure what the timeline is for that, coming days, and I would think definitely by next week. And then maybe at the end we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A, but as always, you can use the chat window for questions, and we'll do our best to keep up and answer those. Before we get started, I want to mention opportunities to participate in the PnP, SPFx, and JavaScript Special Interest Group. So as always, we really welcome and encourage the community demos. So if you've got some cool code you're working on that involves either SPFx or any of the @PnP solutions, so whether that's the CLI, the PnP JS, or the reusable controls, would love to see demos on any of those things, and then as well demos related just to client-side development on SharePoint, even if it's outside SharePoint Framework. Love to have those as well. So just reach out to us, myself or Vesa, and we'll get you on the schedule just as soon as we can. We are booked out, I think at this point, 2 or 3 weeks, but we'll get you on the schedule just as soon as we can, and would love to have those demos. I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it. I do think that's one of the best and most valuable parts of these calls, is seeing all the great stuff all of you out there in the community are working on and building. So really excited, for example, to see what Frank's got for us today, and then what you all might offer up and want to show in the future. So please just reach out. Love to have those demos. As well, you can contribute on GitHub, so that can take the form of reporting issues. We always appreciate those issues, feedback, and ideas. As well, we welcome your pull requests, so if you have the time and want to put in a pull request around fixing an issue or adding an enhancement, adding some capabilities, and that goes across PnP JS, the CLI, and the reusable controls are all absolutely welcoming of your contributions. So if you have ideas, please contribute those. If it's a bigger idea, don't be scared to reach out and talk to us about it first and make sure it's going to be a good fit before you invest a ton of time. But I'm almost certain it'll be just fine, and we'd love to have your contributions. And then finally, you can always provide feedback on everything we do. So feedback on these calls, feedback on the samples, the documentation, the demos, what demos you'd like to see, things like that. So we definitely welcome that feedback. And while we can't always act on every piece of feedback immediately, we do take them to heart, discuss them, and do our best to adjust what we're doing based on what you all are telling us you want to see and hear. So stepping in now, I'll hand things over to Vesa for the SharePoint framework latest SharePoint engineering update.
Sure. So this section is going to be relatively quick, and then we'll let Frank to do the demo, and then we'll get back on the 20 SharePoint framework announcements. But what I wanted to do is quickly, obviously, two specific slides, which I always have here. First of all, the documentation guidance, aka MSSP DevDocs. Just to remind everybody, SharePoint framework, modernization documentation, and all of that has been updated, so it's up to date. There's SharePoint Framework 1.6 documentation out there, tutorials updated, videos updated, and everything is up to date. Now, once again, one centralized location for all of the documentation for SharePoint. The second thing what I wanted to remind at the same time is a reminder for ourselves. After Ignite, we promised to catch up on the issue list. We've been really falling behind on following up on the dev issues on the SP DevDocs, and we will absolutely work on this to get it cleaned after Ignite and keep up to date on what you're submitting. So great way. Anyway, the intention of this location is that you can report any developer topics or API issues directly to the engineering, and we'll start working on them, obviously depending on the priority or criticalness of the issue what you encounter. Now, in Ignite, we're obviously we talked about the future. Before we go there, just to quickly update you on the usage. As you can see, the SharePoint framework usage is actually rapidly growing. There's an interesting uptake, which we can see already this autumn, and it seems to be, let's say, exponentially growing, the adoption. So if you're kind of wondering, is it worthwhile to start learning this, the answer is yes. Now, and you should be remembering that we, as an engineering, we actually build all of our stuff using SharePoint framework as well. So this is the same tooling, same code, same platform, same model, what we used internally as well. So that should give you a confident enough to actually adapting to SharePoint framework. And it's great to see that option. It is absolutely fabulous to see that people are using more and more SharePoint framework. Now, on 1.7, this is what we actually showed yesterday in our SharePoint framework session. So what is the main new capabilities which are coming by end of this year? Hopefully before Christmas and hopefully before December and all of that, but the promise is by end of this year. In the past, we've been talking about the end of October. It might be it goes to November side. But in here, the big things are domain-isolated web parts. So basically, if you're concerned on the fact that the JavaScript is running on the page, you're able to isolate that JavaScript or a web part to be running in an isolated iframe really easily. And Pat is going to do a live demo most likely on that one. I'm looking here, and he's going to say yes. Yes. Yeah. Then dynamic data, which is the web part to web part connections or SPFx component to component connections, is going to go GA in 1.7. So you're able to start using that in production usage. List subscriptions means that your web part or component can get notified whenever there's updates on a list. So you can live get a notifications on your components when somebody's adding items to the list or documents on a list. So everything is getting up to date automatically. SPFx component in Teams will go to preview in 1.7. So you're able to build up one piece of code which then works seamlessly in both SharePoint and also in Microsoft Teams. And that's, to be honest, that's only a start. So we're looking into using SharePoint framework also in other services and products as well. Most likely it's going to be then renamed to something else, maybe Pat framework or Luca framework at that point. We'll see. Or Patrick or Vesa framework. Who knows? What we also are releasing in 1.7, supporting provider-hosted solutions, and that's a pretty high-level statement. But what it means is that you can take the Microsoft Teams solutions and actually run them in the SharePoint side. So basically, the way how you can build external solutions in Microsoft Teams, those same solutions actually will work on the SharePoint side as well. So we're really kind of an aligning on the side by side with Teams and SharePoint on the development experience. And then the last piece is app pages, and we're going to do a live demo hopefully on that one as well today. So you can build actually app pages, not as single page applications as such, but app pages inside of SharePoint. So we're going to see a live demo on that one as well. Now, there was 2 questions which I want to actually ask from Pat directly, because Pat is sitting here, and Pat is our engineering manager responsible of actually implementing stuff. So will we get an update to Gallop? Well, technically, I'm not really sure what that means, but let's actually talk about update to React. React 16 is coming in 1.7, right? Potentially.
Potentially.
Yes.
So we are working on getting the side-by-side support for React 15 and React 16 up and running, and once that's stable, then we will roll out updates to the generator and the build tools to support React 16 as well as more recent TypeScript versions as well.
Yeah. And that comes down on the fact that if you have built your web parts using React 15, you don't have to upgrade them at that moment. So we need, that's kind of delaying the upgrade or adding the support of React 16, because we need to support side by side so that your old web parts will not get broken and you don't have to recompile them or compile them. What about the Webpack discussions, Webpack 3 to 4? There's a lot of demand for that one as well, or people asking?
So I haven't had many people ask. I know that it is also on the list of tooling updates to be made. I think it's below the React 15, 16 and the TypeScript compilers. Yeah, because some of the recent Fabric React requirements have TypeScript 2.6 or 2.8.
Yeah. Cool. And then there's a questions around TypeScript 3. We'll see which version will be aligning first, and obviously whenever there's a newer versions, it will take a while for us to catch on that. We can't always go and push just update on the latest and greatest technology version, because that might actually cause issues on the existing code. So that's kind of slowing slightly down the adoption as well.
Yeah, and I think TypeScript right now only has had, TypeScript 3 has only had a few minor patches to it. So we're less likely to jump straight to 3, but we'll see.
Yeah. Now there's a quick question from Russell before we go to the Franck's demo, and let's get back on the discussion. But Russell had a quick question as well. So can we use SharePoint Framework web parts in the SharePoint mobile app as an alternative to Power Apps? So will the SharePoint mobile app support SPFx properly sooner or later? I think that's in the progress.
I mean, the mobile app, so pages with web parts should render in the browser, the hosted browser in the mobile app. So those should work. I know there's one issue we need to sort out with web parts running in the native app that are requesting web API access, and there's some work we need to do there that's currently being done.
Yeah.
But I don't think there should be a problem with regular web parts running in modern pages in the mobile app.
Yeah. And then there's a question around SharePoint 2019 support. That's coming in 1.7 as well. It's actually already checked in, and it's...
Yeah, and to be clear on that,
the support already exists.
Yeah, what we're doing is we're updating the Yeoman generator in 1.7, and it'll ask, do you want 2016 or 2019 or on-prem? For now, for 2019, just install version 1.4.0 of the Yeoman generator, and the packages that creates will be compatible with 2019.
Or 1.4.1 without the Graph APIs.
And they don't use extension. Yeah, exactly.
So, cool. Good. Now we can keep on going on the questions. Well, let's get back on the questions after Franck's demo, and we'll do live demos of some of this stuff. I'll then ask the questions as they come in. But Franck has a really cool demo also coming up. So let's get back on the SPFx topic and Ignite updates after that one. So I think that was the last one on that one. So Patrick on the PnP JS, and then let's go to Franck.
Yep, we'll get, excuse me. Quick updates on our normal topics here. So next release for PnP JS is going to be October 5th. We got the changelog updated to see what's coming. Mentioned this last time, but wanted to mention it again. Great new documentation formatting. Thanks to Chris Kent. Did some great work to get us onto MK Docs. So that's hopefully addressed. We had a lot of feedback that they were hard to navigate. It was hard to find things. I think that's much improved. So thanks to Chris for that. If you haven't looked at the docs in a while, do please check those out. And I did want to mention briefly on browser support. We are in PnP JS drifting away from IE 11. We've updated the polyfill article. We're not aiming to break functionality in IE 11, but we are not working quite as hard to explicitly support it. Now, we've heard feedback on that, so we understand that can cause folks some pain. So we're not going to break IE 11, but we are going to start to use a few of the new features, for example, map. So we're not using anything crazy, but IE 11 at this point is 5 years old, so it's I think time for us to start getting to use some of the new stuff, and for all of you to get to do that. So I've got, like I said, updated the polyfill article. Would encourage everybody to, I know you've got a lot of customers that say they can't move off IE 11. Be an advocate for moving off of IE 11. That's a big push from a lot of areas inside Microsoft, is to get onto modern desktop. So be an advocate to move away from IE 11 as much as possible. I know there's scenarios that you need IE 11 for, legacy software, legacy functionality, etc. But do be an advocate for moving. Because there's going to become a day, this is not an announcement, I don't have any special knowledge, where IE 11 is just no longer supported for SharePoint Online, for example. So it's going to be a lot less painful if your companies and your clients start the process of moving now. And just something to think about for the future. So like I said, we're not aiming to break IE 11, but it's going to be a few more polyfills you're going to have to use and things like that to make IE 11 work. So 2 links down there at the bottom. The first one there is the documentation, pnp.github.io/pnpjs. Check that out. Follow the hashtag PnPJS on Twitter, and you can always follow me at MediocreBowler. My announcements are generally related to PnPJS. I don't post a whole ton of stuff on there, so you won't get a lot of noise if you choose to follow me. So Office 365 CLI. Yes.
Patrick? So you mean that you're posting actual professional stuff, not like people dancing like other people in the team, right?
I mean, I've posted people dancing, but it's always related to professional stuff.
Absolutely.
It's professional dancing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's professional dancing, yes, indeed. Yes.
Well, wait. Appropriate professional dancing.
Sorry to take you off.
Moving on. Office 365 CLI updates. We've got a new beta out, 1.70, with support for managing or retrieving, in this case, taxonomy term groups, retrieving webhooks, exporting flows, adding sections to modern pages, and improving the upgrade experience for SPFx projects. So that's really a great feature. If you haven't tried that out, the CLI now helps you update or upgrade your SPFX projects from older versions to newer versions. So great feature and very much worth checking out the CLI almost for that alone. So definitely check that out. And then in progress, cross-platform PnP starter kit setup script, and then more commands. And then as always, Waldeck's looking for if you have additional ideas of commands you'd like to see added, certainly would love to hear those. And of course, if you'd like to help out with the CLI, that's pull requests there are absolutely welcome as well. You can always install the latest version, and then you can get more information from AKMS 0365 CLI. So do check that out. It's a great capability, especially if you're unable to use PowerShell. So if you're on a Mac or other environment where PowerShell is not an option for you. So big updates on the reusable SPFx controls. So big I had to make the font small. I'm not actually going to read through all of these, but some great enhancements in both the 1.8 and 1.9 versions. And if you haven't tried out the controls, these are reusable controls to use in the body of your SharePoint framework web parts, or I guess application customizers as well. But really saves you a lot of time, and they're just really great drop-in React components. They're styled with the Office UI fabric, so they're going to give you the out-of-the-box look and feel without you having to really do all that work and build that functionality yourself. So things like the people picker, a list view part, a field name renderer, and a taxonomy picker are all great capabilities, and there's even more. So definitely check those out if you haven't for your projects. You can save yourself a whole lot of development time there. And then as well, this is another place if you're looking to get involved or provide feedback. Certainly, this is welcome for the property controls as well. And so the property controls are for the SharePoint framework webpart property panes. So like when you edit the webpart, you get the little property pane. These are, again, drop-in controls you can use to customize that editing experience, and they're designed to work seamlessly there. And again, styled with Office UI Fabric, so you're going to maintain that out-of-the-box look and styling with these custom controls, and again, saving yourself a whole ton of work with having to build these editing experiences in your web parts and controls. Excuse me. So do check that stuff out, and absolutely on all of these things, PnP JS, the CLI, or these reusable controls, definitely welcome your feedback and welcome your contributions if you're looking to get more involved in PnP. So I talked very quickly, so we can get right to Franck.
Hi everyone. So my name is Franck Cornu. I'm Office 365 consultant at Ecos in Montreal, Canada. So today I will show you a quick sample that I've made a couple of weeks ago about a bot integration within a SharePoint site. So before beginning, I have a couple of slides just to introduce the use case and so on. So basically the use case for this sample is, let's say you want to build a bot assistant for your SharePoint intranet, for instance, to answer some basic questions like, let's say, get relevant information about the current users, like meetings, browse search results from SharePoint, or even automate actions. So this is really the use case. So build an assistant from SharePoint intranet. Technically speaking, the bot needs to access protected resources. In our case, it will be Azure-ready resources. So the bot needs to access these resources authenticated as the user to retrieve relevant information, because to be truly efficient, a bot has to know you. Because by default, a bot, when I say bot, I mean the bot framework from Microsoft, by default, the bot doesn't know you. It means there is no single sign-on depending the channel you use. Let's say you are logged in a SharePoint site. This is not. It doesn't mean you are logged in the bot. It's the same thing for Teams. You log in Teams, but the bot doesn't get this authentication. So to access these protected resources from a SharePoint site, there are multiple options. So the first one is the easiest one, the app-only permissions. But in our case, it's not really the best option, because what you want is to act as the user, so you can really grant the permission to one app. So this is not really an option in our case. An option would be to use the implicit grant flow with Microsoft Authentication library using the Azure-ready v2 endpoint. This is the purpose of the previous sample that I've made, the NSAL bot extension. So basically, the idea is to handle the authentication part within an SPFx extension, and then send the token to the bot logic, so it could access the protected resources. So we are using the back channel to communicate between the SPFx extension and the bot. So this is basically the idea, and there is already a sample for this. The other way is to use the authorization grant flow with adal.js with the Azure-ready v1 endpoint. This is the purpose of this demo. So behind the scene, we use the adal.js on a Node application within the bot. Another way would be to use the new bot service integrated authentication. This is a new option inside the bot service within Azure. I will show you quickly later. Another way would be also to use the new SPFx AAD token provider, but I didn't test this option, but I'm pretty sure it works. So a quick demo of this. So it is the end of the slides. A quick demo of this. So I have a modern site here. Let's say it's your intranet, and I've created an SPF extension here, my intranet assistant. So when you click here, you have a conversation window, and when you engage the conversation with the bots, first of all, you have to sign in to access resources. In this case, it will be the graph endpoint to get some relevant information about this user. So I just click to sign in, and I'm signing in the bot, and I can access resources. So let's say with manager, and behind the scene, the bot calls the graph endpoint to get this information. So I'm logged in, and I can get this information. So pretty simple example, but in real cases you want to use other endpoints and more complex scenarios, but this is the point. So if I go back here and return to my bot, the conversation is saved, so I can follow the conversation. And I'm not, I don't have to log again within the site. So the technical part of it, to get this conversation, it's just store in the local storage to get back to the conversation to the bot. So how does it work, technically speaking? The first thing you have to do is SPFx extension. So nothing really complex here. It's just an extension. The main part is a custom React control. So this is the bot framework React control. You can get this control through an npm package. So you have a GitHub page explaining how to use this control. Behind the scenes, this control uses the direct line channel from the bot service. So I will show you later, but you have to store this information, the direct line secrets, within your application. In this case, this information is stored in the in the local tenant property. So this is the way I chose to store this information, and the bot uses this control to communicate with the bot. One important thing is to transmit to the bot the user identity. When I mean identity, just a unique ID for the user and the name to be able to retrieve specific information about these users. So there is no authentication part on the SPFx extension. The most interesting part is in the bot. So to create a bot, you have multiple options. In Azure, I have a bot here. So you have you can create a bot using another function or a web app. This is a web app in this case. I will explain how what is the configuration. So in the settings, so in the channels here, all I have to do is to activate the direct line channel, so I can generate a secret and a key to communicate with SPFx extension, and I can also add other channels. I will show you later how to use the Microsoft Teams. About the integrated auth for the bot service, there is a new option here that you can set up to configure the authentication, but it's not part of this demo, but it exists, so you can take a look at this option. It works with multiple identity providers, Azure AD, of course, but you have GitHub, you have Facebook, and so on. So you can try it. So let's go back to the bot code itself. So here I have, this is a Node.js bot, so the structure is pretty basic. We have some routes here for bot dialogues. we have also routes to handle callbacks from the auth flow and to get messages. So to communicate with protected resources, we will need to create an application, an Azure application within your tenant. So let's say I'm on this tenant, I have to go to the Azure tenant from this domain, and I will create an application. And this application, I will give the permission I want. So in this case, this is the graph permission, very basic. So we use the delegated permission to sing as the user, but you can configure your own here. And a really important thing is the reply URL. So the reply URL, the callback, will be called when the user is logged. So that's why you have to use a web app bot instead of an Azure function bot, because you have multiple endpoints that you will use. So the callback to get the token, the authorization code, but you have to handle messages. With another function, you have only one endpoint, so it's difficult to get to handle this scenario. So you configure this callback here, and that's it for the Azure application. So if I go back to my bot dialog, so every time a user sends a message, it's the root dialog. So in this root dialog, I have a middleware, the get authorization, when I will check if the user is already authenticated. For this, I have some storage options within the bot framework to store this information. In this case, it will be the access token. In the bot framework, you have, like I said, multiple options to store information. For a demo purpose, I use the memory, memory storage. This is This is for development purposes, but in a production scenario, you will have to use the your own storage, like a Cosmos DB or whatever. So for this demo, I use the memory bus storage, but in production, you can't use this in your code. So get back to my middleware. So I just check if for this user, this particular user, there is an access token. If not, I generate a signing card. A signing card is basically just a link sent to the users with a predefined URL. In this case, the URL will be built to initiate the auth authorization flow. So there is a pre-parametered URL with the resource I can access and so on, the redirect URI, and the way I want to log. There is also a special parameter, the state parameter. It is really important in this case because this parameter will give you the opportunity to store information, personal information and useful information. And this information will be back to you after the user logged in. So in this case, I store the address of the bot. The address is like the way the information that allow you to start a conversation I can say that to continue a conversation. It's a unique address to dialogues to continue a conversation. So when the user is logged in, you have to get the address and go back to the conversation. So I store this information in the state parameter within the URL, and when the user is logged in, so this callback is called, and I will parse this parameter and go back to the dialog with the auth success. And the user is logged in inside the application. So then, if the user is authenticated, I can make call to my graph resources. So in this case, I used Louis to detect the intention and associate a particular call from the graph, but it will be you can use anything you want. It doesn't really matter. The point is really about the authentication. So all the flow, the authentication flow is handled through adal.js. So this is, I use the adal package. So I control the URL and the way the authentication is performed. So this is, you have total flexibility about this. So let's say you want to use this authentication flow with other channels. So I showed you within SharePoint. Okay, but let's say you want to use the same authentication from a Teams channel. So I could show you. Let's say go back to my bot, back to channels here, and I will add the Microsoft Teams channel. So my bot is recognizing Teams, and let's say hi. So this is basically the main process. As you know, the sign-in card. When I click here, I'm logged in directly in Teams, and I can interact with collected resources in my manager. So this is basically the same flow. So this implementation is suitable with when you have multiple channels. If you have only one channel, let's say a SharePoint site, this is not really the best option. I think you have other options, but it can be useful if you have other channels. So this sample is available on GitHub in this SPFx extensions, and you have all the procedure to replicate this in your environment. So you can try this pretty easily. So just follow the instruction, and you'll be fine in this case. That's pretty it. Thank you for your time, and if you have questions or issues, don't hesitate to communicate with me via Twitter or GitHub. Thank you.
Great stuff, Frank. Thank you very much for that. Awesome stuff. And as you saw, a lot of possibilities for bots, so definitely check those out. There's a great question. Can one bot connect to lots of things? And the answer is yes. So you can set up those different channels, as Frank was showing, and you can connect to Teams. You can connect to various chat like IM. You can connect to other surfaces. So really cool stuff. You can write a bot once, make it do some amazing things, and then actually connect to it from all over the place. So Vesa, are you guys all set?
The first demo is less code and more showing some new capabilities that we're going to be rolling out in preview for the 1.7 release. And so what we've got here is a page where we grab the personal email web part from the SP starter kit and put it on our page. When I first rendered this page, I didn't have gulp serve running, so sort of standard web part in the page, and
first page.
Here we go. It says I need additional credentials. No, I don't want to give those. And it says, hey, we can't use this personal email app because we haven't been given permissions to the mail.
So let me reformat this in a understandable way. Sorry about that, just joking.
Oh.
This is a email web part, which is using Microsoft Graph to get access on the mail of the user, contextual way. And basically, right now, this is part of the 1.6, so the functionality that you're able to access Microsoft Graph. So the reason, obviously, in this case, that error happened was that there is no permissions granted yet for that particular scope by the administrator in the SharePoint central admin.
That's correct, which is exactly what Pat is showing right now. Yeah. The package was deployed in the app catalog, and it was the list in the API management page was not fully populated, and just like Pat is showing right now, it was not approved.
Right. And so quite possibly the admin or you as the owner of the tenancy and whatnot will say, you know what, I don't want to grant my entire tenancy and all the code running it access to people's email, which is reasonable.
What do we do?
So on another page here, we have the same web part. There we go. And in this page, we have a web part. And it's fetching mail even though we don't have permissions to email and the entire tenant.
Take a look at the URL, it's exactly the same domain.
And then you can even go and edit the page. Yeah. The web part still acts in its normal reactive fashion. I want 3 mails, I want 1 mail. And so the question is, so how did we manage to accomplish this?
How did the web part work, even though it didn't have any assigned scopes like you were requested to do in 1.6?
And so if we take a quick look at, say, the... Oh, come on here. At this web part, there we go. You'll see here that there is an iframe. Oh, where's my iframe? Okay, trust me, there's. I can't find the iframe in all the nested divs here. But if you take a look. Okay, I'll stop trying to find the. But there's an iframe here that runs from a different app domain.
In the same way as SharePoint add-ins were doing in the past, right?
Right, exactly. Only in this time, as you can see, we're handling all the communication between the property pane and the isolated web part over here, even though it looks exactly the same as a regular web part.
And the property pane is also a framework.
Yeah.
So that if you need to have some call to
Please stop this
you need
direction.
to have so the property pane is also iframe text Vesa. So if you need to have calls in the property pane to high impactful web API, you want to protect the code of IP in the property pane as well, you can do that because both of them are iframe.
And here's the app that's running in that app, or here's the permissions. So the app itself has permissions to the graph saying read user email. This isolated personal email app has been configured to have all of the reply URLs to this other app domain, which was created per component. And so we've basically taken the exact same web part, dropped it on the page, but it's now wrapped in a separate application that makes that has a different URL that has its own unique permissions, but still interacts nicely with the page.
Which is adding the security layer on. Yeah. Nobody's able to access the access token if needed, right?
Exactly. All the code is exactly the same. So here's the actual change that you need to make to take a standard solution and make it run in a secure domain. We handle the creation of the app. We handle the permissioning of it, all that stuff. All you need to do is add a single entry to your package JSON that says, I would like this solution to be domain isolated. And then at that point in time, all the web parts running from this package will be isolated in their own iframe, which will communicate back and forth with the host page. There's a slight hiccup right now in the code where the
You don't have to explain that. Okay. So, but basically, this answers the concern of some customers saying that, well, if I put many of the web parts on a page from a multiple vendors, they can access the access tokens and they can kind of leak theoretically some data. So if that is a concern for you or the administrator or for your customers, you can isolate the web part running in a different domain, which adds additional security. So,
the other scenario that this feature covers is you as an ISV wants to protect your IP and you don't want other components to call your API. you will be able to do that now by approaching your solution with this option.
There's a good question from Chris Brian on this one. So for reply URLs, is one needed for each page? The web part is made one.
No.
We automatically take care of everything.
So all of the, if you take a look at the reply URLs, they all wind up going through either the redirect or the SPFx single sign-on or the single sign-on. So all of the authentication that we handle goes through the standard sign-on endpoints for SharePoint.
And these, all of what you're seeing here, this is automatic. So this technically, the developer doesn't need to know that this is happening.
Right.
In the background.
The developer needs to put that attribute in the manifest, and that's
yeah, exactly. So just trying to make sure that people are not getting confused. That did I need to create something? No. This is completely taken automatically care of. In the past, if you wanted to do an Azure AD applications,
you would have to do all this yourself.
Do all of this by yourself. We do all of that for you, just the one attribute in the manifest, and you're good.
And the code running has full access to the same APIs. It has the full page context for the current page that it's hosted on, the user information, the theming information, the locale, the regional settings.
What about responsiveness?
It's an IFrame. So it'll be slightly less responsive. Oh, sorry. It'll be slightly less fast than the main page. Our goal is that it'll be the same responsiveness. So like I said, the slight hiccup we have right now is that we have like an off by 1 or off by 2 pixel error, so you can see scroll bars on the iframe. But ideally, as you move your page around and stuff, that iframe will automatically move around, and so you won't even see the bars of it and stuff. You won't even know that it's an iframe.
And again, just to answer Mark's question as well, this is fair. So the permissions requests are auto-approved as well.
Oh, sorry, no, they're not.
So the permission requests you need to still approve.
Yeah. So the API, this page here will ultimately have an entry that says
per component.
This other component is asking for these permissions, and the approved section here will say this other component has these permissions as well.
Okay, so this page will basically, in one form factor or another, we are still debating what is the right UX. It will show all the permission that has been requested and or approved for the tenant, which is what you have in 1.6, as well as all the permissions that have been approved or requested for a specific component. And we are doing work to be sure that these information, although together, are clearly distinguished.
Yeah. And just to be super clear, this is super early beta.
Yeah,
this didn't work 2 weeks ago.
Or yesterday. So that's why on dev, this will be dev preview in 1.7. Right now, we just have we can configure this stuff so it works automatically. But by the time it gets to you guys, there'll be management and APIs and that sort of stuff.
And documentation and videos and guidance and stuff.
Oh, that's your.
So yeah, that's my job. So that's fine. Now, and the other stuff, I think the app pages was super interesting for a lot of people. They want to kind of just app pages. And what else do you have? 10 minutes.
So we can do a quick picture of an app page.
4 of them are pages.
Oh, no, hold on. Let's do.
Guys are trying to decide what they want to show. And obviously the Teams one is big, but we showed that a few times, so that's why. But it is a big thing as well.
So this here is
actually both.
The Teams-based add-in appearing in SharePoint. So this is one big iframe. This could also be one big web part that you've created. We still host all the navigation and the headers and the suite nav and all that sort of stuff. But on the plus side, you now have a full width, top to bottom, left to right div where you can have all of your experience.
Yeah. You can show that this is a web part from SharePoint standpoint. You can create a new page and doc that out.
Sure.
So this is the app page, right?
Yeah.
So basically what we're providing as an app page.
And you'll notice there's no edits.
Yes, there's no edit experience for the end user. So that's what the app page means. You as a developer are able to create a page which is locked for you.
You want to basically release a ready-to-go application without requiring an author to compose your application. And you want also to lock the experience so that accidentally or on purpose, the application gets removed by the page or changed.
So end users can't accidentally delete.
Correct.
Correct. Which makes a lot of sense because that's obviously Yeah.
And the, the other thing that Pat was mentioning is because the theming and the navigation and the branding is inherent from the site, the same app page, exactly the same app page, will look up differently if you put that or create that in a theme site versus a communication site, because the navigation will be on the left side as well or on the top.
Yeah.
But basically, same customization. Once again, write it once. It's in both teams and it's in SharePoint.
Yeah, and app pages actually works for both team scenarios, just like Pat was showing, as well as standard SPFx web pages.
Now, there's a good question from Joel on that one before we go to the socket IO thingy. Can those pages also contain out-of-the-box web parts?
Yes.
So you can combine that with out-of-the-box web parts.
So we're realizing that there's basically two models of app pages. One of them is I have one control, and in that case, the control is the full size, and if there's any scrolling, it happens within the control. And then there's an alternate one, which is I basically got a page that I've configured. Maybe it's using part-to-part communication, a bunch of text, and I can create that into an app page. And in that case, it'll act like a normal page, but it won't have the generous header at the top. It won't have the footer at the bottom. It won't have the authoring experience or.
But let's be super clear, because obviously this is coming up all the time. You can't get rid of the header or navigation, so it's not a single page application host as such.
That's correct.
Because we really want
people to take advantage of the SharePoint capabilities, that its SharePoint feeling is still there.
Because so we want to be sure that you understand that this is SharePoint.
Correct.
And you are in SharePoint.
Yes, correct. Cool, okay.
So we have I'll be super quick here with one more demo. And Frank, I grabbed some of your code from a long time ago.
Franck Cornu?
Yes. Which proved very useful, so I appreciate it. It was
Okay.
it was a control you wrote back in the day.
Community, sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring.
Which was your real-time newsfeed webpart.
It's pretty old.
Exactly. But it was great, particularly because you had this long description of how to actually get Socket.io to get live updates, which sort of went on and on and on about all the work you had to do with Azure and creating message pumps and all this stuff. And so for 1.7, what we're going to release is a preview of, make sure this is the right, no, not that one. There we go. A preview of using what we're calling list subscriptions, which is what we call the server-side webhooks, and this will be a browser-based equivalent. So all you need to do here, so you create this list subscription factory, which is will be an npm installable module that we have in the service scope because it needs access to make all the backend REST calls on your behalf. And I'm just passing this through to the React component at this level.
Red squiggles. No, no.
Oh, they're all good. Expect those red squiggles.
Okay. Unknown types. Live coding.
So here's the subscription coming in. That's all fine and interesting. So when the list ID is set, what we want to do is configure the list subscription. We'll do down here. And so to create this connection, all you need to do is pass in the list ID that you want to be notified of.
Basically, you want your web part or an extension. You're saying for SharePoint that, hey, if there's any changes on this list, let me know.
Please let me know. If the list isn't in the current site or the current web, you can pass those parameters in as well.
Cool.
If you're doing from a -my to a regular one or the opposite, you can pass in. You need to pass in the target domain.
Cool.
And then all you do is you say, I want to call this function when the notification happens and this function when we're connected.
Yeah. And that works for extensions and web parts as well. So
yeah.
Cool.
And then in this case, on data change, there was a function called getItemsAsync that goes and fetches data and renders it. And so that seems like a great thing to call when we get notified that the list has changed.
Can we see that in practice?
So let's see if this works.
What do you mean if?
Come on. Remember your comment about early code, blah, blah, blah?
No, that's fine. Can you reduce the fonts? It's really big.
I was presenting on the screen the other time, and it was really small. So
there's a question from Robin. Will we get subscriptions for Craft too?
Oh, this is explicit.
This is explicit. Yeah, or this is using Room, which is the Craft wrapper. So the answer is basically yes.
You will be able to use Graph in order to access. Oh, the build failed, please. Can you see?
But answer is yes.
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 There we go.
Okay, there's the item. So you can do actually side by side.
There's been exactly. So hopefully the
no, Win is left.
So, and like I said, this is super early code. We're even using our edoc environment, which is basically our day-to-day build environment for the latest code, which was checked in yesterday. So this is really.
So here, hopefully, the socket.io connection is not wearing a hat.
1, 2, 3. Come on. Okay.
Hold on here. The backend service that's providing the socket connection is a little bit dodgy at times, so.
Because it's so new and it's in beta or alpha actually, so.
Try one more time and then I will hop to another environment if I need to.
Yeah. We're running out of time anyway pretty soon, so. All of the stuff, and just making sure that we get that one in the recording and the video as well. So everything that you're seeing right now.
Yeah, the socket.io connection is not.
Yeah, so right now this is not working. So, but before anything is getting released or preview, obviously we'll make sure that it's working. This is really early. Oh, it did it.
It's just a bit slow today.
So I did update everything. And you will get obviously guidance. We'll do live demos of these things many times in the community calls when we get closer on shipping. Let's see that it's actually updating a Franck Cornu PnP shirt. Oh, there we go. It's updated. Now it's working.
Exactly. And with only maybe 10 or 12 lines of code, rather than the huge amount of work that had to get done before. So
yeah.
Thanks very much.
Frank did a great job on the example on that already, but it's now this is really doesn't require that much code. It's really easy to do.
Cool.
Did we have anything else to still, or I think that's it for this one. We're running out of time anyway. So.
Yeah, we have the dynamic data stuff, but that's fine.
Yeah, dynamic data has been, we've been demoing that already a few times. So I think that for now, live from Ignite.
Watch our presentation is already live.
No, it's not. So,
will be already live?
No. So, no, Luca. So, I think this is for Ignite. Like I said, we'll absolutely cover all of the other announcements, branding announcements, site designs, all of that stuff in upcoming calls. Absolutely. The next, sorry, Patrick, the next SPFx call is on October 11th. And then the next general SharePoint Dev, where we're going to cover branding stuff, site designs, all of those changes, is on next Thursday, October 4th. I will push out the agenda again like a day or two before, so you'll know what we will cover, but it will be latest and news from Ignite pretty much. There's plenty of announcements which we need to go through in this course. Any updates on SharePoint add-in announcements? For SharePoint add-ins, not that much.
No, so I think what we wanted, so one thing that we would like to work with the community maybe is...
What do you mean maybe?
Oh, I'm not sure if it requires us to do internal work or if it's to be driven by the community. Is an easy way to convert existing SharePoint add-ins, replace the auth module, which is effectively the bulk, to use something compatible with
Teams model.
The new Teams model.
Yeah.
Because it'd be great if we could just say, here's a drop-in replacement, and you're good to go, and now you get access to the rest of Office 365.
So add-in model is not going to go away. It's going to be supported. SharePoint hosted add-ins, provider hosted add-in, but the future where we're investing is more in the alignment together with Teams.
Yeah, and give you more capabilities in that thing.
Yes, more capabilities in introducing there, making sure that you can achieve same stuff as in add-ins and more on that model as well. So, and this is pretty early. The code is not available. Teams integration not yet available. It's coming in 1.7, and we'll get additional guidance out immediately when we can. So you'll be up to date on anything.
Correct.
But I think that's it. Patrick, any last words from your side?
Nope. Everybody who's at Ignite, have fun, safe travels home, and thanks everybody for joining the call.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Luca and Patrick.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
And
Frank.
Bye-bye.